All right, can you hear me when I'm on the full screen here? Let's see if that works, because this is going to be really interesting. Okay, now you can hear me. No, it wasn't just you. It was the software. Like I said, in the part that nobody heard is welcome to twitch.tv. I am creating without a safety net. And now I need to figure out how to make sure that when I switch to my full screen, as I was showing before, you will be able to see that as well. So I am going to transition over that and see if I can get that working. So hold on a second. I'll keep talking and see if I can get that figured out. Okay, it seems like I'm having some problems with that other scene, so I'm going to just add a a new thing over here where I can. Ooh, you don't want to see that. You want to see this. Okay, and we will. This is editing live. Crazy, trying to do this all at the same time, and that isn't what I want. I can move that into place. And as much as I'm sure you want to see my face in this, we are not here for that. We are here for the writing. No, that is also not it. Okay, where am I? I am right there. And I can. There we go. All right. Putting me at appropriate size. There we go. And hopefully everyone can see that. I'll switch over to the chat to see how things are looking over there. All right, I can only hear when I'm full screen. Yep, heard you. Yeah, I went away because I was switching back and forth. Ah, yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much, TCats. I really appreciate you helping me out there. I am going to try this more. And this is why I am doing this on June 25th, and I'm not doing this in July. Those who have come to my stream before have seen the under construction sign and that I'm launching in July of 2020. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be participating in the WorldAnvil Summer Camp challenge for 2020. What it is world building for 31 days, but using 33 prompts. And more information can be available at worldanvil.com. And what you see on your screen before is the world that I have built. For those who may or may not be familiar with my writings before, I am a published author of some short stories. I do not have a book deal, or I have not published a book, but I'm doing this for fun, and I really enjoy writing. And the two stories that I have published before, the rights have returned to me, and so they are available here on worldanvil.com, or you can find a link to this at WriterGreg.com. and they are available here under the fiction category. We have The Maiden's Request and we have The Runaway Hope. These are 2 short stories based on fairy tales. And the fairy tales that I've chosen, I wanted to pick lesser known fairy tales and be able to share them in a unified world. And that unified world is Sagadorm. And the idea is that in the same way there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe where all of the stories are intertwined, I'm doing the same thing with fairy tales. But if anyone has read the original fairy tales, they're weird. They are really weird. And so what I'm doing is I'm fixing them. I'm taking the ideas and the nuggets from the original Grimm or other fairy tales and putting my own clean, young adult, new adult spin on those fairy tales. I want them to be exciting enough for adults to read them, but also clean enough that you can read it for a bedtime for your kids. And so that's my motivation that I have here with my writing and what I'm doing today. So that is enough introduction. Let's get into working on the world building. So what we have here is a process that is described as agile world building. And this agile world building is you need to identify what you want your world to be. You need to understand the foundation of what you're going to be writing about so that you can have a consistent theme, you can have a consistent and really lived in story. And so that's what I'm going to be writing, I'm going to be doing today, and I'd love your feedback on it. What you can see on the screen here is in the WorldAnvil online website. You could think of this as just building a Wikipedia, but we're building it with my own stories and my own information, and I'm creating different articles. The articles that I am creating are about the story, and this specific article contains different prompts about what I want my world to be like. Now, the editor that I have here is called the Euclid editor. It looks very reminiscent of BB code or HTML code for those people who code, and I really like this approach because it gives me exact control over what it looks like. To see what it looks like, we will just switch over, and this is what it looks like. And I don't know if there are any questions so far, and if anyone wants to pop into the chat and let me know, we can certainly talk about that. But let me share some of this information that I have here. First is a motivation. What is the motivation for me for building Sagadorm? And like I said earlier, it's a single world hosting the retelling of obscure and fixed fairy tales and the stories that they spawn. Because sometimes happily ever after just isn't the end of the story. Sometimes the most interesting things happen after the tale ends. And so I just wonder what would be going on afterwards. And so that's what I want to explore in these short stories. So the genre, light fantasy. There's not a lot of magic in this world, and we'll get into that as well, but also new adult and always clean. Now, what do I mean by new adult? That is a lesser known genre of writing based on the audience that these stories are written for. Young adult are let's step back even lower. You have mid-grade fiction. Mid-grade fiction is for older elementary school or the 9 to 13-year-old. Then you have young adult, which could be from your 12 and a little bit older maybe 16, 17. But your new adult stories are those stories that are like 15, 16 through 20. And these are, I think, this is a good place to put my stories because I want to have it to be exciting. Uh, thanks, DCats. I love this idea. I want the stories to be exciting enough that people would want to read it, but also clean enough that you don't have to worry about content. And that's what I feel like a lot of authors today who are quote unquote young adult authors is they just don't want to put that scene in a story. They don't want to worry about those kind of vulgarities or information that shouldn't be, that they don't want to put in there. Personally, I don't think I could write those scenes, and personally, I don't want to write those scenes. So that's what I'm doing. So the elements of my story, I want to focus heavy on adventure because I think that within the fairy tales there is a lot of adventure, but it was told in a way that may have sounded exciting 400 years ago, 300 years ago, but also they may have been overly preaching on the morals that they were trying to teach. Little Red Riding Hood, don't talk to strangers. Hansel and Gretel, don't eat too many sweets. Things like that, which are really, really obvious and maybe heavy-handed. And I want to dial up the adventure and tone down the moral or the heavy-handedness of the story. I really do think that we can learn and grow and be better because of the stories we read and because of the stories we write. And so that's why I want to have adventure, mystery, that's some fun stuff, but also some clean romance if needed, because how many fairy tales are about princesses and their princes and all of that stuff. And in fact, my Maiden's Request is a semi-romance or has strong romance dealings in there. All right. Now, the scale of this world is huge. Sagadorm is meant to be a very huge and encompassing world, because if I want to write a story that's a high fantasy medieval area, yep, I'm going to put that in Sagadorm. But if I want to write an urban fantasy or something with a more contemporary, I'm still going to put it in Sagadorm. I'm just going to put it 2,000 years into the future or more. The two stories that I've written for Sagadorm, The Maiden's Request and The Runaway's Hope, are actually, I think, 400 to 600 years apart, but they're in the same story. And WorldAnvil helps me keep track of that stuff. So I say, okay, well, this character, the runaway, is related to the maiden in this way. A friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. It's the 7 degrees of Sagadorm that I'm going to be keeping track of here. And so that, I think that's going to be fun for those people who want to dig in deeper than just the stories themselves. All right, the Noble Neutral. I am not writing a grimdark. This is not meant to scare. This is not meant to give kids nightmares before they go to bed. Though The Runaway's Hope does have a little bit more tense that I was surprised to see. All right. The themes that I want to do, exploring the foundational truth for a better society. If the fiction, if the art that we produce doesn't make someone inspired when they read it, I just think that's the purpose of art, is to uplift. It is to inspire. It's to, hopefully, when someone puts down one of my stories after reading it, they will feel like they're a better person for having written it. So that's what I want to do. Conflicts, overcoming good versus evil, overcoming difficulty, because as this year has been, there has been more difficulty than this year than I think in most of the years of my life. And so the overcoming the difficulty is a really important thing. A theme that, we may be in difficult situations, difficult times, but you know what? We can overcome them. We can do more. We can be more. In and Yeah, I just want people to know that, yeah, sometimes we're dealt a raw hand, but we can be more. We can do more. And if my stories can help someone think that they can do more, then awesome. That is really awesome. I mean, I I have read many a story where I put myself in the hero's shoes and going, what would this hero do? And I thought, you know what? They would do more. So that's what I'm thinking about. All right. So let us dig in to answering all of these different questions that we have here. We'll see how far we get in the time that we have here. I'm just going to keep going, and anyone has any questions or comments that they'd like to put in the chat. Yes, my clock is way above there in the on the wall of the office here, but if anyone has any questions, they can post them there, and hopefully the lag or the delay between being live and being commenting in the chat isn't too extreme. All right, I see we have 4 people viewing in the stream. I wish I could see the names. I need to, if I turn on my phone, the problem is that I will get a really bad reverb echoing between the phone and the microphone. So I'm really concerned about that. But so thanks everyone who is already here, already following. And if you want to say hi in the chat, I'll be able to shout out your name and we'll go from there. All right. So hopefully that's enough talking. Let's get to the writing. And we'll just go from here. Now, some of these questions that we have here are the same as what we did before. So the page that we have in WorldAnvil, the edits we have the generic article, which I'll have open in this, and then we have the sections. Excuse me. And so some of the information I'll just copy and paste. So what's the motivation? Well, it is just that. It is let's insert that before the break, after the break. So a single world hosting retellings of obscure fixed fairy tales. Now, if I save that, okay, we'll get the save message. I'll come over here and I refresh it. Then here it appears underneath that bullet point, and now I'll just be able to keep going. So you can see the changes as they go live. This article should be public. Let me see. Nope. Let's go. The draft. Let's see. Access. Yeah, this is public. One thing about the summer camp challenge is that all of the content needs to be made public, and so that anyone can view it and you can be judged on it. So hopefully we'll just see what happens. Okay, why am I building this world? What am I hoping to get out of this? Well, let's see. Well, what I'm hoping to get out of it is a lot of the things that I already said before. It's okay. Well, honestly, it's to simplify the story making process, because when I think of the short stories, or I think about a cinematic universe such as Marvel, such as the DCEU, or the animated DC animated universe, or the Arrowverse on the CW. When I think, yes, those are very nerdy examples, and welcome to the stream. the the idea is that there are rules already established in one story that impacts the rules of the other, or so that you only have to build the story or the world once, but you can still tell a lot of different stories. For example, when you compare the CW's Arrow versus the CW's Flash, they are very different in tone, in content, in what the subject materials they cover. The Arrow was a very dark, gritty story where you could just where it was all about Oliver Queen and his struggles with his past, trying to redeem the sin or atone for the sins of the father. It was a good series. Not always for kids, but it was a good series. But then you go over to the Flash. It's very light, has a lot more comedy. It deals with the meta-humans and superpowers, and what is it like for meta-humans to actually emerge into the world, and how does the world adjust? And so the stories that you can tell, they're consistent even though that they are different. There's the same worlds. And as the Flash and the Arrow, as they moved on and they were overlapping, and then they added the Legends of Tomorrow, they added I think they added Batwoman, as they where's Superman? Oh, Supergirl. As they were adding more stories, they were able to build on the thing, and it makes the job a lot easier. So that's what I'm doing here, is I am making this process simpler for me, because if I build the world once, then I don't have to build it a million times. So why am I building this world? The same as the motivations, but I am just to simplify the story making process. And what are you hoping to get out of it? Fun. I'm doing this for fun. In the day job, I write enough emails. I write enough technical documentations. I want to write for fun. And another thing that I've thought about, bear open the soul and all that stuff, is that what do we leave behind? Because often people say, write your own epitaph, or what do you want to be able to say on your deathbed? And I want my grandkids and great grandkids to know me better because of the stories I write. That has nothing to do with being published. That has nothing to do about quitting the day job. But that's all about a legacy of stories that I loved and stories that I create. And I want to pass that on to my posterity and anyone who wants to enjoy it, so that there's a little bit, more in the world. They're just, I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. And hopefully writing fixed fairy tales can do that. So anyway, enough philosophizing, if that is. Okay, what is the hook or unique selling point of your world? What makes it unique or different? What makes Sagadorm unique is, well, it's fixing fairy tales. And I can't spell worth a darn. Okay, tales. Fixing fairy tales. But also, I have some type magic system. I wouldn't say it's a, yeah, I would say it's a semi-hard magic system. And what I mean by semi-hard is there are rules. It's not hand wavium. It's not like the Lord of the Rings where you don't know how Gandalf does the stuff. He just does the stuff. Even with Harry Potter, you understand why stuff happens because the incantation, the movement of the wand and stuff like that, but it's a little vague. Brandon Sanderson has some wonderfully hard magic systems, and when I think of the Mistborn trilogy and the Alloy of Law books that followed that, those are wonderfully hard magic systems. And I like that because the restrictions bring out the creativity. Because everyone knows that if the tyranny of the blank page, and if you think about it, how hard it is to start with a blank page. And I have, after summer camp is over, I'm going to explore that idea more in future streams because of how to get over the tyranny of the blank page, how to get an idea by limiting yourself more than, oh, I'm going to write a story. Nah, let's not do that. Let's actually write so. So I'm fixing fairy tales. I have a semi-hard magic system. There, one thing that I don't want to say spoiler warning for my own short stories because most likely no one's read them. Very few people have read them, but the idea that I have here is that there's very few people that can do magic, but it grows over the decades, over the centuries. So read the stories. You'll see what I mean by that. Okay, so this really isn't a unique selling point, but except for the fixing fairy tales, I do think that is a unique selling point because it takes stories that we love, or preferably stories that we've never heard of, that and bringing them to a new audience. Now, I would like to say that you'll never see a Disney princess in one of my fairy tales. I will be as true to that as I can, but the Maiden's Request is based on the fairy tale Iron Henry, and Iron Henry is also commonly known as the Princess and the Frog. So the Princess and the Frog obviously is a Disney movie. Wonderful movie. I loved how they put that in New Orleans in the 1920s, 1930s, and just put a really fun twist on that. Even the incorporating the voodoo of the culture down there, that was just really fun to see that. But my version of the Princess and the Frog is set in an ancient fantasy-based China, and I did a lot of research on the ancient China. What were the dresses, the customs? But I'm not in ancient China. I created a country called Xianhu. In fact, let me just show you something here. Not all of this information is made public, and so you're seeing here live on Twitch stream, when I'm logged into my world, there's a lot of interesting information. So Xianhu is the name of my country that is based on Imperial China, and so I can open that, and then let's see, where is the is it Kurgana? Let's see, is that... no. Okay, so the Xianhu timeline. Okay, so... all right, so what we have here is the story of the Maiden's Request. Okay, the curse of Prince Hedrick of Rickenwachen is broken. it'll make more sense if you read it, but let me just go to Xianhu. All right, so this is information that I've built about Xianhu, about its where it is, the dynasty that's in charge of it, who rules it, the important people that are in it, and this will be built out, of course, as I build along. But then we have in Kurunag, I made up this word. But the problem is, when I made up this word, I used an English to Klingon dictionary. That doesn't mean I know how to pronounce it. So when a lot of these countries are based on Earth and Earth customs, but in a twisted, fantastical setting, except for the world of the dragons, they're the Klingons, and not. I just really liked the guttural and harsh language of the Klingon Empire. Excuse me, the Klingon Empire, to be able to use for names for my dragons, and so Suviklarg is the dragon in that, and we have Vola the First, and so you'll see. Please read the stories. They'll make sense. They're for free online. Enjoy. All right, so let's just leave it at that. Fixing fairy tales. Okay, what genre is this world? Well, the genre, as we had over here, is light fantasy, new adult. Okay, light fantasy, new adult, and always clean. Now it says, how does the world feel? Okay, player experience. WorldAnvil is primarily a place where you can build your world. And by building your world, that's talking about your RPGs, tabletop role-playing games. When we talk, I'm using it for my storytelling, because I want to keep track of all of these things. Where WorldAnvil was originally designed and continues to be a great place where dungeon masters, game masters, or whatever game you're playing, you can track all of your information. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't use, but a lot of stuff I do. I just focus on the parts where I'm telling my stories. All right, so how does the world feel? And I think that goes close to, that goes back to the noble neutral. The Janet and Dimitri, the creators and purveyors of WorldAnvil, they had this really cool graph of where you could say, you have dark to light on a spectrum. I gotta be up here because I do talk with my hands. They have from dark to light on the tone, the feel. I mean, light is My Little Pony, friendship is magic. Dark, pick your favorite zombie game, the dystopia, but Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Wow, I'm old. Okay. And so there's that. And then you have the grim versus noble, and there's the variation in between. The grim meaning it doesn't matter what you do in this world, nothing will change. You may save the day today, but tomorrow is going to be terrible. That's not very uplifting. It can be really fun to read, but that's not the kind of stories I want to write. And so I have a noble. You go from grim to noble, where the actions of one can change the world and impact the world for a long time. And okay, W.A. Broken Jack, thank you. I'm sorry, it's on a different screen here. I wouldn't say primarily. Janet uses it for writing, and Dimitri is making a writer tool now. Yes. Oh, I am so excited for Project Homer. It is the new WorldAnvil feature for WorldAnvil, where it basically makes Scrivener online. I don't have a Mac. I try to avoid Windows as much as possible. I'm streaming live on a Linux machine, and I I would I am looking really forward to Project Homer. And in fact, you can see down here on my corner the thing that says Labs Alchemy Training. Yes, Isaac A. Thom, thank you. That is the hype for Project Homer. Me too. Oh, cats, me too. I was thinking of Scrivener, but Homer looks good. I am so excited for it. And because one thing that I did with my fiction stories is I have like I have the fiction, I have the maiden request, and I have these as different articles. I still want to design a cover for the maiden's request, but I am looking forward to moving that information over into Project Homer. I haven't done it quite yet, but that is high on my to-do list. And I will probably after summer camp, that's going to be one of the streams. I want to stream basically anytime I'm playing with WorldAnvil, I'm going to stream so that I can learn from everyone here, learn from the WorldAnvil community, but also learn from writers. If I can share what little experience I have, awesome. But I need to look over here to the chat more frequently, so I'm sorry if I haven't seen that. So Isaac, welcome. Broken Jack, thanks for being here. This is fun. All right, so back to my pontificating. All right, what is character agency? All right, okay, the Anvil advice. Character agency describes how much power the PC's player characters have to change the world and how long-lasting may that be. In a noble campaign, think Star Wars, one person can change the whole universe and affect lasting change. In grim campaign, think 40K. I don't know what 40K is. One person can have only a very limited impact on the fate of the world that can change that often and not last long. I think I already covered that in Noble. So it is going to be, I'll just say it's Noble, as we talked about that. They have, maybe not calling it Noble. I would say they have high agency. Okay, T-Cats, on your stories being noble neutral, would you consider any value in the odd story that does illustrate that we cannot always change the world, whilst not making it too dark? Yeah, I do think that is good, because everything isn't sunshine and roses. There could be anything happening in your world, because if you look at the world today, I really don't want to get into current events. I want this to be a refuge or an escape from current events. But if you think about it, if you look for the good, you will find the good. Mr. Rogers once said that whenever you see the dark, look for the helpers. I'm paraphrasing, so I apologize. If you look for the helpers, you will find the good. And I think that's really important. So, September 11th, 2001 was a very dark day for the people here in the United States, and I think across the world. And I was a brand new father. Had our first kid, our first child, and when I thought about sitting there watching the TV, I'm going, what world have I brought this child into? And it kind of scared me when I think about that. And I'm grateful that I'm done having kids now, because I wonder if the parents who are delivering children in a COVID restricted hospital, if they're wondering the same thing. What kind of world am I bringing my child in? But if you look for the bright, if you look for the good, you will find it. And these past 19 years since that dark day, and even these 6 months of the weirdest year that any of us have ever experienced, that there is good, there is bright. And I want to share that bright. So, but also, you can't see the light if there's not shadow. Agreed. That's a good approach, philosophy to pass on. Thank you very much, T-Cats. I hope to be able. I don't want to preach. I want to write, but I do want to, let you know what's going on behind my brain here. So, yeah. So yeah, I do think there is dark. I was surprised. My story, the Runaway's Hope. The reason why I called it Runaway's Hope is because Vola, the main character, is in a very dark place. And in that story, bad stuff happens to her. And without giving away the ending, it's happy. So, I really, you can't appreciate the sun unless you've gone through the night. You don't have to focus on the night, but you can still follow the sun. Oh, excuse me here. Water. Sorry. All right. So, what is your character agency? There's high agency. Reoccurring themes reinforce the tone. And I think we already talked about that a little bit over here. Exploring foundational truths for a better society. Let's copy that over. And, oh, no. Okay, we'll put it in here. Let's see how okay. We'll just leave it at that. Exploring foundational truth and okay. This is one of my favorite quotes out there. I have a lot of favorite quotes that I really like. And Carl G. Mazur, he was an educator about 100 years ago. And he talked about be yourself, but be your best self. And that's what I would love all of my characters to do, except for the villains. I want my heroes or heroines to be themselves. I want them to be living, breathing, tangible, relatable, flawed, struggling people, characters, because we are living, breathing, struggling, thriving characters as well. But you can be yourself, but you can also be your best self. And so those are some of the reoccurring themes that we have here. Let's go to the advice. These three things should cover the overarching campaign. Again, we're not writing a campaign. We're not writing a novel yet. That's coming in NaNoWrimo. So join, follow, because if I'm planning on writing NaNoWrimo live, which will be fun, which will be scary, creativity without a net. All right. Okay. What three things should cover the campaign? These are a great way to help underpin the same genre, tone, narrative campaign, despite different flavors of the adventure. Yeah, there are going to be different adventures. There are different flavors to those adventures. Variety is the spice of life. But I think I'm just going to leave it at those two right now. Okay. Create 5 events that are actively happening in your world. Okay. That's going to be a challenge. All right, no new comments. All right. Okay, 5 events that are actively happening in my world. That is a difficult thing to do because my world covers hundreds of years. But let me, I will go, okay, Fall of the Dragons. Now, the fall of the dragons, what I mean by that, the prompt, and spoilers, the prompt that I had for The Runaway's Hope was not a fairy tale. There was a writing contest, and they said write a story about a dragon and a teenager. And I says, okay, how could I put in my world here a story about a dragon and a teenager? And before, I had said I don't want to have magical creatures in my world. I don't want to have dragons or stuff like that. Because when you think of the fairy tales, the Grimm fairy tales, the Anderson, the the colored fairy tale books. I forget the name of the compiler. They're all on Gutenberg, public domain. But there's a fairy, and there's not much else. There might be witches, and witches in my world are just evil fairies, because what's the difference between a fairy and a witch is their alignment. Are they good or are they evil? And so I wanted to tell a story about the first fairy, because that was the twist that I wanted to put on it, is how did magic come into the world, or how did humans get access to that? And that is the story of the Runaway's Hope. It's the story of how magic of the dragons, because only dragons had magic, how that transferred to the humans, so that the humans now had magic. Prometheus stealing the fire from the gods type thing. And so that's where I have the Runaway Hope. So the fall of the dragons. And I could go, let's go to the timelines. Okay, so here in Sagadorm, I have this timeline, and I know that WorldAnvil is going to be changing how they do their timelines, but this is what I have here. The first, okay, so here Vola is the girl, the dragon. She has it, and that's 654 years BCE, before the Common Era. And then this Vola first appears in really, I write stories. I can't pronounce them. All right, so before she appears, and this is the first time a fairy or a magic user comes into it. But see, all right, so I guess the second is the formation of the Fairy Council. This is my United Nations. And so I'm going to put that in the formation of the Fairy Council, because what I see is that the Fairy Council regulates the magic, runs Hogwarts, for lack of a better term, and helps police magical issues. And so that's what I see as the Fairy Council. They have ambassadors out to the world, and they have ambassadors from the world. And that is, in The Maiden's Request, the Princess and the Frog set in ancient China. One of the minor characters is a representative of the Fairy Council, because I wanted to demonstrate the Fairy Council, but I also wanted to have a person so that the frog didn't get killed. Because I really don't like that. Okay, Broken Jack. Yeah, I'd pronounce it Kurunag. Kurunag. I like that. Kurunag. I'll need to... All right, let's copy that. All right, I'm just going to put it... well, okay. Kurunag. Let's just put it there. All right, because yeah, because that's the island where the dragon is, and I have a map and stuff like that. But okay, so the formation of the Fairy Council, that is that's important there. Let's go back to my timeline to see if I have anything there. Okay, the reign of the Fairy Council begins. Oh, yeah. Okay, I haven't put this here, but I love the story Puss in Boots. The idea that a cat can be able to trick a king is delicious. But I also consider it very problematic because you do not become king and be an idiot. And I don't like how the king was treated as an idiot. I mean, he didn't even know that the ogre's castle was next door. I mean, they were able to ride there in a carriage, and they rescued the Marquis de Carabas. They were able to rescue the miller's son. And I actually have a story written. It's called The Ranger's Revenge, where I take Puss in Boots and I turn it into a mix of the Count of Monte Cristo and Puss in Boots. And so, instead of Puss just randomly killing this random ogre who did nothing wrong except let a cat in the house, Puss has a revenge story. But it's not told from Puss's point of view. It's told from the miller's son. I have a first draft of that written, and I'll be editing that on Twitch probably after the summer camp is over. But yeah, so anyway, so Puss in that story, I call him Lynx because he is a cat. I don't want him just to be a house cat. I want him to be a real cat. So he's a lynx, a mountain lynx. And in fact, I could show you a picture of him. Let's go back. Let's just open up a new. Okay, characters. All right, there's my characters. Yeah, I have a lot of characters. Okay, let's find him. No, Lynx. The Lynx. There we go. There he is. Yeah, he is. This is the Lynx, and he is my Puss in Boots. And so, yeah, Puss in Boots and the Count of Monte Cristo. And what happens with that is Puss, or the Lynx just generally, he seeks revenge. And the ending result of said revenge causes an international brouhaha. And because of that, the Fairy Council is established to prevent World War, basically, because of what happened. So that's, I already have a story on the formation of the Fairy Council, which I'm really excited to share with that. Okay, so there's that. In here, oh yeah, okay, so there the Lynx becomes cursed. Philip, the miller's son. Well, yes, of course the miller's son marries the princess and becomes the king. Of course. That's going to happen. And I have a whole bunch of things. Oh yeah, the miller's son is the great grandfather of the princes of the prince and of the frog. So yeah, you have that. And so here's some other things here, but I do have later on. Oh, this is really opening up. Okay, I went through in here. I added all of the censuses because I thought a census would be a good time to do something. Oh yeah, I got Sleeping Beauty in here. That was a NaNoWrimo novel that I might rejuvenate sometime. Yeah, okay. So here we have The Great Decimation. Let me copy that and put it over here. The Great Decimation is the end of the Fairy Council, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a definite change from one type of story to another type. And the change from the stories is that the era of fairies is over, and it's the quote unquote end of magic. You could call it similar to the massacre of the Airbenders at the beginning of the 100-Year War in the last Avatar. Avatar: The Last Airbender, where and that changes. And so what I have here is during this Great Decimation, there's a lot of stories that can happen in there, where tragic stories, but through the tragedy you have heroes coming to it. And so that's what I'm wanting to have with the Great Decimation, and also this idea of totems that will house the magic. This is about 1,000 years, maybe 900 years after that, will be my urban fantasies, where there is the lore of magic, the lore of stories, but it's not really there. But the idea of having superpowered individuals granted to them by magical totems, I just think that's a really cool idea. But that way I can tell modern fairy tale, modern urban fantasy stories in the same world, in a world that feels lived in, but not Earth. Okay. I had one of my NaNoWrimos that I had, novels. It was really, I really enjoyed it, and I may want to rewrite it since it's been 10 years. But I based it on Earth mythologies, kind of like Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson, the Apollo Trials, the Red Pyramid series. It was very heavily influenced by that, but I would want to write it with my own mythologies, which are at the top of here. So, long story short, the Great Decimation. Okay. So 5 events actively happening. And see, that's the problem, actively happening, because I have such a large scope. I'm not sure about it, but Okay, I need some more events. I'm not going to cheap out on this. Okay, and any help from the viewers that are in here, that would be awesome. I need to have more 5 events that are actively happening in the world. What are some events that can really build a world? See, this is where the creativity without a net happens. I'm not, because these are, so far I've just been talking about the ideas that I have, but that I've already had in a world that I've been building for practically 2 years. And so now it's trying to figure out something, because if you think about, world history that we have here, through Earth, we had the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. We had the rise and fall. We had the Dark Ages. We had the Renaissance. We had the Industrial Revolution. That's a big one. But see, I have the Great Decimation. I have in the year 1123. Is that a reference to not Pethat? whatever that mathematical. It's not Pythagorean theorem. That's triangles. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 plus 2 equals 3. I forget what that is. Uh, Boy, when you have to keep talking, and you've been talking for an hour, and you still want to keep talking, funny things come out of your mouth. Okay, actively. Okay, Broken Jack. Actively probably just means key points in the scope like yours, events worthy of articles. Yeah, and that's a good point. Something that is worthy of articles, because I do have my Fall of Dragons, and that had a story. The formation of the Fairy Council, and that has my Ranger's Revenge, or the Puss in Boots. The Great Decimation. I don't have a story for that because I haven't thought or found a fairy tale that could lead into that. Because what I want to do, and I will be doing in the future, is after July and after summer camp, I plan on running live workshops where we take a story idea and we get it through the outlining process, and we can do that collaboratively, or hopefully that could spur ideas for you out there. But I want to take fairy tales and see where they fit. Not only where they fit in the timeline, but where they also fit in the world. Because here I have all these different countries, and they each have a history, and they each have background. Because the Great Decimation is steampunk. I'm not a steampunk author, but the idea of the Industrial Revolution and magic, because as much as steampunk, from my understanding, and your mileage may vary, steampunk, as I see it, gears and cogs and steam and Victorian England or turn of the century, you take a top hat, put some gears on it, and you have steampunk. I'm sorry if I'm offending any steampunk fans out there. I read a really good anthology of steampunk fairy tales. Some were really creepy, but really good. But I could turn the magic from the fairies, from the Great Decimation, into a power source for steampunk. So let's the rise of the automaton. Is that what it is? An automaton? Is that what it is? A moving mechanical device made in a... Yep, okay. So we'll just call that the rise of the automaton, because that is where the magic of the fairies is encapsulated into machinery. Okay, because if you read the I only have 2 stories. You'd think it'd be easier to remember them. If you have read the Runaway's Hope, there is a power source. The dragons rely on a power source that can be only harvested in one way, and if someone could figure out how to harness the magical power source that's in the world and put it into machinery, that would be interesting, and also have a lot of ethical dilemma, because of how these power sources, they're called cores, how these power cores are harvested and made. And that could be an allegory with modern technology, but not really into that. Okay, the rise of the automaton. I'm not sure if I'll really have automaton, but that steampunk. Okay, I don't know if I really want to have automatons, but just we'll see. We'll see about that. Okay. The fall of the okay, so let's think about more of this because each country has their own dynasties, their own reigns, their own things. Oh, okay. How about this? The I have the world of Sagadorm is influenced by the four elements. The wind, air, water, earth, fire. Okay, those are the four elements that I have, and there are 4 moons that orbit Sagadorm, and they orbit in a fashion that each of them take a specific amount of time to come to Earth. A specific amount of time that they're close to Earth, much like Halley's Comet only comes close to Earth every 76 years. These moons come close every month or so. I have to look at my calendar. But anyway, so there's 4 days in Sagadorm. There are 4 days in the week, one for each moon. There are 4 weeks in a month. There are 16 months in a year. So I have this non-Gregorian calendar that are based on the 4 moons of Sagadorm. And so one cool thing I think that I could do is space travel and the impact of magic. Okay, and so this is how does magic change when the humans and fairies visit the moons that give them power? Because that's a really big thing, is that much like Sozin's comet in Avatar: The Last Airbender, I've been watching that on Netflix. Much as Sozin power gives the Fire Nation an oomph, or the full moon gives the Water Nation, waterbenders, more oomph. These moons function in the same way, each moon correlating with a different power, with a different magical set. So how cool would that be if the fairies actually got to visit the moon? Because I do envision that I will have urban fantasy. I will have superheroes. I don't know if I want mutants. I think that's enhanced humanoids. I don't know much about that. I just want to, but that would be an interest. Okay, space travel and the impact of magic. How does magic change? Okay, cool. Yay! Forced creativity. All right. Okay, choose 3 or 5 local world build. Okay, government presence. That's kind of that's kind of the formation of the Fairy Council. That's rule of law, social, economic strength, wealth, race, class, gender, sex, military, religious, technology influence. Okay, that is definitely what we have here with the steampunk And let's add a line break. There we go. A line break there. Yeah, okay, that's technology. Arts and cultural influence. Agriculture and trade. Ooh, yeah, I like the agricultural and trade because that fun stories happen on the edges. I don't know if that is a thing from I've heard from somewhere or I read somewhere, but the idea that stories happen where there's conflict. No conflict, no stories. So in a Venn diagram where you have the two circles, it's where the two circles touch or they overlay where stories, interesting stories can happen. And through agriculture and trade, I can explore how these countries interact with each other in and also in the realm of a fairy tale that I fix, because I do have some ideas. I have a country called Vetrzemlia. It is Russia, and I have some ideas where there's going to be a lot of political intrigue, where about a young man becoming king, and his searches for meaning in that, and so. And but it's a very agrarian society, and they're coming to the Fairy Council, and so that's going to be an interesting story to see. Yes, TCATs, thank you very much. Let us save changes. Yes, it's been an hour. Okay, your changes have been saved. Oh, they added the timestamp. It's 2:14. Wow, no, it's not. It's 8:14. All right. And so we'll just save it again because, why not? Okay, thank you so much, TCATs. All right, so let us get rid of this. Okay, drama. Okay, the drama. Add 5 points of drama in your world. You can use 1 or 2 of them for your main plot line, but the rest are just there to create the impression of a larger world in motion. Yes, very good. Okay, drama. Okay, there's the 5. The drama that we have here, that's going to be interesting. Sorry. The drama is going to be interesting because it really depends on the fairy tale that I incorporate into Sagadorm. Because let's go back to that thought that I had earlier, the Venn diagram, where conflict happens at the edges. So, thinking about the edges that we have here. If we go back here to the 5 events, because when we think, the formation of the Fairy Council, that, or the Great Decimation, that there's eras of change, and this is where we transition, because there's always going to be a new guard and an old guard. What I mean, the differences between generations. Parent versus child, Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, millennials, boomers, all of that stuff. There are conflicts between that, and I think that's all right. The time is at the bottom of the footer in WorldAnvil time, or is it 6 hours ahead, if I recall correctly? Yes, I am in the Mountain West, and it is UTC -6 right now. UTC -6 is during the summer, and UTC -7 during the winter when it's not daylight savings. I'll save that political rant for never. But yeah, we are UTC number 6. -6. Sorry. H's. Okay. The eras of change. So with all of the differences that we have between generations, we have the old guard and the new guard. Okay, the old guard, I don't know how streamers do this for hours on end and never drink water. Okay, the eras of change, because we have the loss, the decimation. We have the loss of commonplace magic. So the loss of commonplace magic, it's all the fairies are gone. Now, I've thought of this in two different ways. I've thought about Avatar, Last Airbender style loss, but I also thought of willingly giving up the power for the better of the world. Because when you think about the great figures in history that are truly remembered for being great individuals, is not the conqueror, but the people who could have been conqueror but chose not to. George Washington could have been king. He chose not to. That is a major thing when I think about that. And there are other other figures throughout history who could have wielded great power but chose not to. And there are those who sought power and didn't turn out so well for them or the world. So in the decimation, the loss of commonplace magic, that would be an interesting place to see what would happen. Okay, but that, not just the let's open link in new tab. Let's look at the timeline again. Okay, the Fairy Council. That's right. The decimation of that. Let's add a break. We also have the Fairy Council. I don't know if I like the term Fairy Council, but it's already in a story, and that story is already out there, so I have to live with it. If I could have named them something different than fairies, I probably would have. Okay, the Fairy Council, resistant of a world organization to a world. Resistance of against a world organization with magic. Because I could really see there would be a lot of interesting stories that could be told there with the Fairy Council, because before the Puss in Boots really solidify the good work that the Fairy Council did during the aftermath of my Puss in Boots story is really interesting how they solidified their power. That would be it. Okay, eras of change. Man, this is hard. Any ideas out there? Any ideas? Maybe I'm thinking of too grand of a scale, because we have macro changes and we have micro changes. Okay, and the macro changes is the influence of nations and kingdoms and all, etc. Or and the conflicts between them. But then we have the micro changes that are there, and that's your your heroine's journey, which is not the same thing. The hero's journey and the heroine's journey are two different things. But then to see how, but see, there's just so many different kinds, and this is the man versus man versus X. There's that thought that all stories can be told in man versus man, man versus self, man versus God, man versus nature. There's only limited things, but because, and especially where I'm in short stories, I only have 5,000 words. And because most people who are willing to publish short stories, not novellas, but short stories, want it to be under 5,000 words. And you really have to focus in on a tight, powerful story when you do that. Like the heroine's journey, you can't tell an entire journey in a short story. That does require a novel, or at least a novella. But you can tell one aspect of it. You can the call to adventure. You can the turning point, the apotheosis. You can the return of the elixir. There's so many different parts that you can come back with, and so that's interesting. All right. Okay, micro changes. Drama. I do want to have more drama, but am I cheating here? Come on, let me know. Am I cheating by just these vague comments that I have here? I don't know, because I just don't know if it's intergeneralization, not intergenerational. Okay, words are important. Yeah, intergenerational conflict that I was talking about, the different generations before. Okay. Well, I don't want to get too stuck on that. We'll keep it. Rules of the world. Ah. Okay, this will be fun. Okay, what are the fundamental differences in the natural laws of your world compared to Earth? Okay, there is magic in my world, and it was really fun trying to think of how to justify different things that you see in fairy tales and justify it in a world that made sense in a hard magic system. And that's what I was working on. The magic system that I have is, and it's explained more in the Runaway's Hope, is on these rocks called cores. These rocks and cores form inside of animals. And when a specific random animal, animals out there randomly will, for some reason, be magical. They can't use their magic, but they have a magical essence that can be detected. And when these animals die or are killed, they, instead of rotting away into dust like any corpse would, they petrify. And within that petrified shell is a magical core. The essence that nature bestowed on that animal becomes a magical core. And when extracted from the magical core, you are then able to use it for magical purposes. And so that is one difference. So let me talk about, okay, the essence of magic is bestowed randomly to wild creatures. These okay. When these creatures, spelling, creatures die, they form cores. These cores power magic. Okay, and so only fairies, the magical users, can access the powers of the cores. Okay, so there. Okay, so we got that. Let me again, TCATs. Thank you. Let's save this. Okay, so the essence, and that's one of the big things, and because this could also work well with the steampunk, is the first time a person is able to take the magic and put it into a mechanical device. That would be cool. And yeah, okay, so that is it. Okay. Let's call this magical cores. All right, then we'll go into magical heredity. Why? I have Grammarly installed. Why aren't you checking that? Heredity. Okay, magical heredity. This is your muggles versus wizards. Okay, only the descendants of magic users can use magic. Okay. Okay, and so all fairies are descendants of Okay, how do you do that? No, not that. No. That's not what that's an event. I want a character. Is she not? No. Sorry, excuse me. Characters. Vola. Yeah, there you are. Vola. Let's try this. I'm not. Not curly brackets, square brackets. Nope. Okay, so we're just going to have to edit person. We are going to, where is links? There we go. At. Just copy that. There. Okay. We'll then save changes. Refresh over here and yep, there. there we'll be able to have a link. Yeah, chaotic, good. I like Vola. Okay. All right, so here we go. Back to Vola. All right, so magical heredity, only descendants. Okay. Now, there is the one thing that I have that the one thing that's hard about fairy tales is what to do with the animals. Because in some fairy tales, the animals talk. Other fairy tales, they don't. And so, what do you do with your talking animals? That's a good question. And so, what I came up with is the cursed. Okay. 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 The only animals that talk are humans who have been cursed to be animals. Okay. See the frog from the Princess and the Frog. Okay. So that's where I go in there. So the frog from the Princess and the Frog. And so what that means is the cursed, if the cursed are there's no such thing as humans. I mean, there's no such thing as intelligent animals. There are only the humans. Okay, let's cursed creatures are infertile. Okay, yeah, I want to add that there because that just opens up a whole new can of worms that I don't want in my world. Because when you think about it, if you had two frogs that were cursed, what happens when they have baby frogs? Then you have a whole line of intelligent creatures. And I don't want that. I don't want to have subspecies. We have the fairies who can use magic, we have the humans who can't, and we have the cursed who used to be humans but were transformed somehow. Draco Malfoy and the Bouncing White Ferret. I love those books. Okay. And so that's what we have there is the animals, and that gives us some interesting story because every talking animal that you come across in Sagadorm has a backstory for why they are a cursed animal. And that automatically gives intrigue into your story because, all right, the Princess and the Frog. Why was the frog turned into a frog? Okay, not because some witch had a bad day and decided to take it out on a prince. That's too easy of a cop-out. We can't have that. We need to have something that is a reason. Now, it could be a heroic reason. In the case of my frog, it's a heroic reason why he was turned into a frog by an evil fairy, which I call a fae. So in English literature, there's the fae, there's the fairies, there's all these different things. In my Sagadorm definition, and why don't we do something like that? Let's copy another one down here. Okay. Where? Okay, here we go. Oh, no, we don't want that. Come on. What did I click? Okay. So we have fairies, the magical users, which I think we've already talked about. Oh yeah. Fae, they are just evil fairies. Okay, there's no biological difference between the fairies and the fae. And we also have the cursed, where they are the humans that were transformed. So in the story of The Princess and the Frog, The Maiden's Request, the frog was a hero figure who got transformed into a frog by a fae, whereas the lynx from the forthcoming Ranger's Revenge, well, he was a ranger. Think Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. He was a ranger, and he was rightly turned into a lynx, and he didn't accept it. I think you opened Artemis, a feature to quickly switch pages. It's Control-Enter. Yes, that's exactly what I did. And so all right, we have the sorry about that. We have the lynx, who is the cursed, but he was rightly cursed by a fairy. He just doesn't like that he was cursed, and he goes out and tries to seek revenge. Thus the story, The Ranger's Revenge, and the miller's son is just a pawn in it. That's where the Count of Monte Cristo comes in. That's where he's seeking revenge, not because he's good and noble, but because he's a bad guy. Okay? So that's the difference between fairy, and curse. And I think those are really the important rules. And maybe we'll throw in astronomy, because I talked about that earlier. The moons of Sagadorm enhance powers of magical users. Okay, so there we go. I think that is enough for the rules of the world. Okay, do you have magic? I think we talked about that. Let's just get, all right. Altered gravity, midichlorians, psychonics. Starting the world's natural law is very important. Hard sci-fi, nope, none of that. Okay, so we will just end that. Okay, how did this world come to be? This is a creation myth. One paragraph on this, don't go full Silmarillion. I don't think I could go full Silmarillion if I wanted to. How did this world come to be? Well, the magical creatures that I have are dragons. They are the original magic users. They were eventually, it came down to one, and so there was only one dragon left, and that's from the runaway. We meet him in the Runaway's Hope, the last dragon. But how did this world come to be? Well, I wanted to think about the moons, because because I have the 4 moons. So in the 4 moons, I have the 4 elements. Everything is based on the number 4 that we have here, and because one thing I do have about this world, when I was making the map for this world, I was thinking about the size of the world, and I didn't want it to be the size of the Earth. So in fact, the the size of Sagadorm, the globe of Sagadorm, is much smaller than Earth. But to retain Earth gravity, it must be a much denser core, and so the ground and stuff like that is very heavy with metals to make the Sagadorm's gravity heavier, even though it's smaller in size. So it's equivalent to Earth's gravity, where Earth is much bigger. This is much smaller. So how did this world come to be? Let's just say it was I don't have comments, but I'm thinking of comments. Okay, there was the collision of the likelihood of 4 or 5 comets into an Earth is astronomical, literally and figuratively. But if we think about it, the collision of because one of the theories that we have, the reason why the Earth has a moon is because a meteor hit the Earth, and then the debris then coalesced and became the moon that we have. And so the collision of the different of meteors, meteors and comets into the planet. See, okay, so how the world came to be, it doesn't have to be that scientific. It needs to be an origin story of some kind. Okay, let's try something else. The 4 dragon. Oh yeah, we're having space dragons. The 4 space dragons. Fought. Okay, they fought in the heavens. Ooh, this could work. Okay, they fought in the heavens. The 4 dragons. Okay, so we'll just leave that as the title for that. I kind of like where I'm going with this. Okay, save changes. Okay. The 4 space dragons fought in the heavens. Okay, so each dragon was focused on one of the 4 elements. Okay, and that is your earth, air, water, and fire. Okay, okay, so each of the dragons, okay, they fought around a star. Their epic final battle resulted in each of their deaths. Okay, their bodies petrified. Okay, because this will go back to the way I have cores, that a magical creature has each magical creature, when they die, they petrify, and they have a core in the middle. Okay, so the 4 space dragons, their bodies petrified, and their magical cores began to no, their bodies petrified and their bodies petrified and coalesced into a single planet. Okay, there we go. Their magical cores escaped and turned into the moons that orbit the planet. Yes. Okay. Love that. Love that. Okay. So, yeah, we have 4 space dragons. They fought. Their corpses turned into the heavy, dense planet, and their magical cores escaped. And, yeah. Ooh. Love it. Okay. That's cool. Thank you. All right. I am so appreciative of all the people who are around here enjoying this, because I'm having fun. And we can't have fun for much longer. Okay, let's see. Ooh, not too much to go. Geography of the world look like. Okay. The planet is small and dense with heavy metal core to compensate compensate gravity to ensure Earth gravity, even though there is a small planet. And I do want to have a small planet, because there are because then the people interact more, even though there is primitive technologies. Because if you think about it, in ancient Rome, the Roman world was just the Mediterranean, and there was so much more of the world than just the than the Roman world. And good old Marco Polo and him and on the trail to China. We have Columbus into the Americas, and there's so much of the world that could have interacted more had the Earth been smaller. So that's why I have it. Okay, and we have regions, and this is the regions that you've seen. We have basically 12 regions of the Earth. And that goes back to not the timeline. Oh yeah, kind of the timeline. Let's go back here to, yeah. So back here, each one of these is a region that we will have here. So there's the 12 regions of Earth, and instead of where Earth has 7, the 7 continents, they have 12. Okay, so I have a map. I spent way too much time building this world map, tectonic plates, shifting, and all that stuff. And I want to redraw it, but it is. Okay, does your geography have any special properties or features? I think we covered that. Okay, initial size of world building. Well, I think I've talked to that in extent. It's epic in scope. How I can spell epic in scope, time and space, time and territory, because we're not traveling to space yet. So the time and territory. Okay, people and their history. I don't think it's okay. Our stream is here approaching 2 hours here, and I really appreciate everybody who has stuck with me so far to participate in this. But I think, okay, that's just the comment. The people and its history. This is the fairy tales. Who used to live in your active campaign space? Well, there's 12 of them. That's wherever the fairy tales are. What is their history? Again, that depends. Species, cultures, current, and your. Okay, we've talked about the humans. We've talked about the fairy, the fae, the cursed. What do they need? What do they need from each other? Now that one's a good one because that depends on all 12. For each group, culture, or race in your active campaign area, limit your answer to one paragraph. Remember to include one sentence on the opinion of others for each group not in your active campaign. Ugh. Okay, I'm going to have to come back to this because we've been going nearly 2 hours, and it's getting late, and it's... Oh, T-Cats, I'm glad you're having fun watching. Thanks for the comment. I hope that... Yeah, I'm gonna because it's where I'm basing so much of my world on fairy tales that I massage and integrate together into the world. It's hard to do this because it's going to change, and I think to go into that now is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because it's going to vary based on the fairy tales that I pick, and I have a lot of fairy tales that I want to talk about. I have some big goals for writing, in spite of life. All right. So I think I'm going to just leave that here. We're just going to save the changes here, and let me just. Oh yeah, I changed it to the video full. This is the video full. All right. Let's go to this. Yes, because if I put my head like this, you won't see my bald spot anymore, right? Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for... I think we hit high of 6 people on the stream. That is amazing, amazing for a first stream that I've ever done. To have this many people. T-Cats, thanks. Enjoyed watching and looking forward to reading your stories. I'd certainly watch your stream of live writing. I'd find that extremely useful. I hope so. I was very hesitant to tell people that I was a writer. The fact that I posted on my Facebook page that I'm going live, and that's to my family, my friends, my coworkers, my people in my neighborhood. The fact that I'm doing this is, I think, terrifying. But you don't grow in your comfort zone, and you can't. And so I am so outside my comfort zone writing right now, but I had a blast, and I look forward to doing this again. And I hope, T-Cats, Broken Jack, others, Isaac came by. I hope you come back, you enjoy it, and especially in July when we will be doing the summer camp, there will be a lot more to work on, and we will dig into Sagadorm, and it will just be based on whatever the prompts are that is given to us by the WorldAnvil Challenge. And so I'm looking really forward to that, and it's gonna be interesting. Yes. Oh, thank you, Broken Jack. Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to stop by. I hope that you follow and that you like it. Yes, I am going for Diamond. I will be doing all 33 prompts live on the stream. Now, it will be at the same time, the 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. It's going to be July 1st through 31st, every day except for Sunday. Got to have a day off. And so so that's my schedule. I may have another stream like this before July starts, depending on who knows what. Maybe I'll do some more troubleshooting, but we'll see what happens. Tell your friends. Tell, if you're from the WorldAnvil community, go light up the forge. And if you're here from other communities that I've shared with this, Yes, Isaac, diamond or bust. That is the motto that's going to be here at WriterGreg. It's going to be really fun. So I hope that you will come and join me on the challenge, the summer camp challenge. There may be other streams before. I don't know. Yes, TCATs. Thank you, lighting up the forge. But this is not just going to be summer camp. This is going to be more. There will be streams in the weeks and the months to follow. I want to win NaNoWrimo this year, and I want to do that with everyone here live. And there's going to be a lot of things to do in October, or Preptober as we call it. There is the World Ember contest in December that WorldAnvil hosts. We could be doing that as well. And so it is going to be a lot of fun. So tell your friends and tell people who are interested. I want to have this to be a family friendly, clean environment where anyone can come and feel safe and bring their kids along and just enjoy storytelling, enjoy writing those tales, because it's what we are, it's who we are, and it's what we can do. So thank you so much for being here on the maiden live stream for WriterGreg, and I think it's time to go to bed. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night, and I'll see you around the internet.